Welcome to Bending Behat Benefits, a live coding adventure, everyone. I'm Steve Persch, lead developer advocate at Pantheon. You can find me as Steve Vector on GitHub, Drupal.org, WordPress.org, Twitter, just about everywhere. If you ever need to email me, steve.persch@pantheon.io. I'm always happy to come back to Chicago. I lived in Chicago for about a decade in college and after college. It's always fun for me to be back here. And for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to pretend. In my job at Pantheon, I'm not in the world of day-to-day site building, but that's where I spent most of my career. I spent most of my career making Drupal and WordPress websites, mainly Drupal sites. And one of the things I was interested in my time building sites was, how can I test these sites? How can I make sure that they are functioning well? So for much of this presentation, I'll be switching between two modes, the Steve you see before you, who works at Pantheon, and a hypothetical, we'll call him Steven, who's back in that agency world, building sites all the time. And in that hypothetical world, the site that Steven is working on is the Umami magazine website. Who here has seen this website? Some people in the back, great. So this is a brand new feature in Drupal 8.5. One of the challenges with Drupal itself is, how do you show people what Drupal can do out of the box? So this is a new set of demo content, a demo profile, demo theme built into Drupal 8.5. So if you ever need to show a potential client what can Drupal do out of the box, it can do this for you. I should clarify, I was not at all involved in the contribution of the Umami profile and theme to Drupal 8.5, but that's fine, because for the hypothetical Steven, who's in the agency world building Umami magazine for a client, he wasn't involved in the initial site creation either. He's coming into this project right at the end as the project is getting close to launch. He's just there to finish off a few features and get things launched. Now, we'll also be talking, of course, about Behat here. Out of curiosity, who here has ever worked with Behat? I'm just curious, the sense of the room, all right, about half the room. Who here has, well, I'm assuming the other half haven't worked with Behat. Who has never worked with any kind of automated testing tool whatsoever? Great. So the thing you need to know about automated testing, this is about the level of information that the hypothetical Steven has about automated testing, is that Behat, like any automated testing tool, is its own standalone thing. Behat, on one level, is a command line application, and it can interact with the Drupal website. How does it interact with the Drupal website? Well, it separately has a set of definitions that tell it what the Drupal site is supposed to do. It reads from those .feature files that describe what is this Drupal site supposed to do. It reads those expectations, and then it interacts with the Drupal website to verify, is it actually doing that? Now that may sound very vague and hand-wavy, and that's fine, because for actual me, the first few years I knew about Behat, it didn't fully make sense to me either. So I'm hoping the idea of this presentation is that mainly through showing, it will start to make more sense. Last year at DrupalCon, I did a similar presentation that was very conceptual, very slide-heavy. If that's what you like to learn, go back and watch that YouTube video. But this one is going to be much more demo-oriented, live coding-oriented, and I hope that'll help you learn how all these pieces fit together. So one of the reasons hypothetical Steven is excited about using Behat is because it allows for the automatic execution of tests over and over and over again. What we're looking at here is a screenshot of one of the many, many ways you can run your automated tests over and over again. Circle CI is a tool you can use to run your automated tests over and over again. And it's really satisfying, I find, to get those green checkboxes. They tell you that your tests are still passing. That is super exciting to me as a developer. I like to get that positive reinforcement and the clarity of, if it's red, well then something is wrong and I need to fix it. So the reason this presentation is called Bending Behat's Benefits is because I want to highlight two main benefits that you can get from Behat. Automation, the ability to run your tests over and over and over again, and clarity, a clear understanding of what your site is supposed to do. So again, hypothetical Stephen has come onto this Umami magazine project. I've got it running locally here. Again, this is basically just vanilla Drupal 8.5. I set this up when it was 8.5 release candidate 1. But I've got this Umami website. It has a home page, has cool articles and recipes, has pages for just the articles, pages for just the recipes. You can look at a single article here. So a pretty normal looking Drupal website, but it's nice to have this as a reference rather than just a standard profile. So the automatic execution side of things, what does that look like with Behat? So I've jumped over to the command line here, where using the command line I can automatically run a Behat test. And I'm not expecting all this to make immediate sense, but that's fine. Stephen has figured out by poking around the code base that it is possible to run your Behat tests over and over again. So we're just going to run a single Behat test here. And what this Behat test is checking is articles promoted to the home page. So Stephen is on this project somewhat alone as a developer. The lead developer who architected this, who set up these initial tests, is no longer on the project. I don't have day-to-day access to that developer, but I can look at this and I can see, all right, so this is articles getting promoted to the home page. In order to control which articles receive attention as a content editor, I need to promote articles to the home page. Interesting. How is this actually functioning? Well, Stephen can poke around the code base and see that somewhere in this code base there's a file called articles promoted homepage, and I can see, all right, there's this scenario here. I don't fully understand how this is working, but I can see it has this phrase that just given I'm logged in as a user with the administrator role. Somehow, I don't fully understand it yet, but somehow Behat is logging into my Drupal site as an administrator. Sounds pretty cool. And somehow, I don't understand yet, Behat is making a new article titled Really Important Article, marking it as promoted, and then going to the home page, and then checking that really important article is in the home page promoted article region. So what that means on the real website is this section here, this article here, is there because it is a promoted article. So again, I don't fully understand how this is working, but it's intriguing to me as this developer who's come onto this project. I'm tempted to try and figure it out myself. So let's further pretend. Let's further pretend that we are on the daily Scrum call. Again, we're getting close to launch. I've got a backlog of a few tickets that I'm supposed to be working on. But my client says to me, hey, do you know that sidebar of articles on like the articles page? And I say, oh yeah, this thing here, the recent articles thing. My client says to me, that was supposed to be related articles. And I think to myself, oh, I didn't know it was supposed to be related articles. I just came onto this project, and I think to myself, there was a lead architect, there was a lead designer. I'm sure they had long conversations. I know there are some out-of-date wireframes out there. I don't really want to go back and like do the project archaeology to figure out, was this really supposed to be related articles? Because as a Drupal site builder, I know if my client just wants related articles by tags, so I ask my client, do you just want like these tags to inform related articles? My client says, yeah, just use the tags, make related articles. I feel like it's going to take me more time to like negotiate doing this through our proper ticketing process. I'm just going to say, yep, we're going to do it. I'm a Drupal site builder. I can just add one more argument to this sidebar, and I can turn recent articles into related articles. Has anybody ever been in the position where it seems like it'll be faster to just do it than it'll be to talk about it and like go through what feels like the proper procedures? So that's the mindset that I'm in. I'm just going to do it. Just going to do it. It's not a ticket, but after Scrum, I'm just going to go straight to it, get it done. So I'm going to go over to the view that controls that sidebar. Now, if I were doing this for real, I would just be going to the block that is relate or recent articles, and I would add a new filter. But alternate universe Steve has made things a little bit easier for me and done that already. So I've got an alternative block that already has added this taxonomy term ID. I just want to take the tags that are on the current node and make it related articles. Super simple, right? All I need to do is say, yeah, get the taxonomy term IDs from the URL. If we're on a node page like we are here, load up all of the taxonomy terms from the node, filter it down to the tags. Normal views behavior, it's been there, I think since Drupal 6 we've had basically this capability, but this is the section that gives me pause. This is the section that makes me think maybe I should have talked to my client a little bit more about what exactly did they expect. Did they expect every single term to get accounted for? Like, is this an AND query or is this an OR query? I really wish I had asked my client what exactly do they expect. But I'm in the mindset that I'm just trying to get this done quickly, and I know this site so far doesn't have a lot of real content in it. My client is behind on putting in all the real content, so I'm concerned that if I do the all option, basically the AND query, I don't think there's a single other article on this site that is carrots and vegetarian and healthy. So I'm going to do the OR query. That just feels like the right thing to do. I'm going to do filter to items that share any terms. Reduce duplicates, sure. All right, apply. I promise I'll get to the Behat part soon here. So need to update the block layout. I no longer want to see the related or the recent articles. I just want to see related. So I'm going to enable related, and I'm going to disable the recent one. All right, so let's go back to Let's Hear It for Carrots. Great article about carrots, and I now have related articles. And Give It a Go and Grow Your Own Herbs is showing up, and the Umami Guide to Our Favorite Mushrooms is there. Give It a Go and Grow Your Own Herbs is there because they share the healthy tag. So I see carrots shows up. Feeling good about this so far. Mushrooms show up. Mushrooms and carrots are both in the vegetarian tag, so I'm feeling good. I panicked for a second when I got to that OR versus AND question, but so far I haven't spent too much time on this. And now, because Steven, I'm an ambitious developer, I'm trying to level up my skills, I want to write one of these cool automated tests. I know that the other developer on the project got to make things go red and green. I want to make things red and green too. So I'm going to write a Behat test. I'm going to jump over to my PHP storm here. I've got a pretty normal Drupal 8 code base. It's a composer-based repository. This is just a structure you can get for using composer-based Drupal with Pantheon. And I see that there was this articles promoted homepage feature file. That's how this one test was written. Obviously, that lead developer didn't write a ton of Behat tests, just this one specific to the site. So I copy that file. I make articles sidebar. That's where I'm gonna put my soon-to-be written Behat test. I just copy everything over from the previous one. And now I'm going to do what I think a lot of developers do, what I first did when I was working with Behat, what I first do when I work with just about anything. I copy, paste, and then I start modifying. And I see what breaks and what works. So just at the top of this file, I'm not promoting articles to the home page. I'm just going to call this related articles, because I don't yet really know what I'm supposed to do here. I don't really know what to do with this section here, and I'm going to find out that on a certain level it doesn't matter. Later I'll tell you that this part matters a lot, but I'm going to find out right now that just from the perspective of doing things in an automated fashion, it doesn't matter at all what I put in here. So I'm just going to say, in order to put related stuff in the sidebar as a content editor, I need related stuff in the sidebar. So again, Steve here doesn't think this is a great way to do this, but Steven doesn't know that yet, and he's going to find he can just keep going even without putting a whole lot of thought into this section. I'm also just going to say that Stephen has figured out that that you can use these tags here, as they're called, to run just one scenario at a time. That'll just help for the purposes of the demo if I just run one scenario at a time. So I'm going to call this related sidebar, and I really have no idea how this part works. I'm just going to call the scenario related sidebar, given I'm logged in as a user with the admin role. That seems like something I can just leave there. But the rest of this right now feels like magic. I have no idea how this is translating yet. So I'm just going to try on the idea that this is magic. When I view an article, then I see related articles. At this point, that's really all I'm thinking about how I know that this thing is working. I'm looking at Let's Hear It for Carrots or any of these articles, and I see stuff that's related. And so far to me, Behat feels like magic. So I'm going to work on the premise that Behat is magic, and then I can just run related sidebars, scenario in isolation, and magic will happen. Come on, magic. All right, so Behat is not magic. That's what I just found out. Behat is not magic. Of that scenario that I just ran, it had 3 steps. Given I logged in as a user with the administrator role, that's in green, that still worked. Somehow Behat was still able to log in as a user with the admin role, but it had no idea what I meant when I wrote, when I view an article, then I see related articles. Behat doesn't know what that means yet. Okay, so what do I do now? I feel like I need help. I probably should talk to that lead developer who knows more than I do about this, but I'm going to make a mistake, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do sometimes what I myself often do is I just look for the help text. I'm just going to run the same command, but with --help. This is, sometimes a good idea when you're stuck with a command line tool. Just throw on --help and see what you get. So Stephen reads through all of the help text here, and he gets to this part. We're just going to jump to the part that's going to be most helpful to Stephen right now. This part about definitions. This looks interesting. Use definitions L to just list definition expressions. Definition I to list definitions with extended info. What exactly does that mean? I can run DL or definitions equals L, and I can get to what feels like the magic part. This is getting me closer to understanding how does Behat go from those plain text files into the world of executable PHP where it's really automating a test. So just by looking at the help text, I figured out, I can get a list of all of the definitions. And it's not magic, it is just regular expressions. Regular expressions, I don't know, sometimes feel like magic. So all Behat is doing here is pattern matching with regular expressions. Behat somehow knows what each of these things mean. Behat is somehow able to translate from when I check option or when I uncheck option or then I should be on page. So as Stephen is reading through this, he's realizing, Behat is pretty much just simulating browser behavior somehow. Somehow it is able to simulate what browsers do. Browsers go to URLs, they can move forward and backwards, they can check radio boxes. Okay, that makes sense to me now. The way that I currently know that this feature is working is I'm just going to a page like Let's Hear It for Carrots, and then I'm looking in the related articles region, and I'm seeing Give It a Go and Grow Your Own Herbs, and I'm seeing the Umami Guide to Favorite Mushrooms. Right now, that's how I know that this is working. So let's see if I can just translate that into Behat. On a certain level, pretty much any automated test is just a function of thinking to yourself, how do I know that this is working? And translating that into whatever the automated test makes available. So I see that Behat allows me to just go to URLs and check for text. That's what I've figured out just by reading through this this help text. I'm able to just tell Behat to go to certain URLs and check for text. So let me try that. And you know what? I probably don't even need to be logged in as an admin if all I'm doing is going to the Carrots URL and checking for text. So let me just try that. Comment out this stuff that wasn't working. Let's just say when I go to, I just need to go to that carrots URL. Then I see, typo? All right. Oh, thank you. Then I should see, that's the fun of the live demo. And I see, all right. What will I get now? Let's find out. Oh, I think I need to say then I should see. There we go. Hey, that was really fast, wasn't it? It just went, it didn't even log in, it just went to a URL and it checked for the existence of text. Feeling pretty good. I got the green stuff. I love the green stuff. But I'm hesitating now. Yes, this is how I know that this functionality is working right now. But is this going to work forever? You know, one of the reasons I want to do this is because I want these tests just running over and over again. So that if this ever breaks, I know that it has broken. But my client is soon going to enter just a bunch of content. And if they enter a bunch of content tagged in healthy or vegetarian, then give it a go and grow your own herbs, and the umami guide to our favorite mushrooms isn't going to be in the sidebar, because this is just sorted by date, basically. So if new articles get added, suddenly those things are no longer on the page, and this test is going to fail. So, all right, what do? I think to myself, well, what did that other test do? So this other test somehow was just making content. Somehow it just made a new article, and it checked for that article. So this test shouldn't fail if it just keeps running over and over again, because it's making the article that is then checked for. So, okay, that's what I should do. I'm going to try and see if I can figure out how to do that. So I'll run that help text again, because right now I have no idea how it did this. I have no idea yet how it made a new article. So I could look at that definition list. I could also do something I often do when I'm stuck. I just grep for text. Great debugging technique. Where the heck did this thing get defined? So I'm going to grep for just that, and I'm just going to guess that it's in the directory called tests, because it's related to tests. Oh, and hey, in this file called featurecontext.php, that text is there. Okay, let's go there. From Chris Weber yesterday, I learned shift, the magic search everywhere. So the text again that I was looking for when I make a new article titled. Okay, so it looks like this is a file that's like specific to this project here, and it looks like I could do a git blame if I wanted to. I could figure out that the lead developer at some point wrote a custom method that went to the article add page, filled in a title, checked the promoted box, and pressed the save button. That's kind of cool. What this is making me realize here is that I've heard about that balance between automation and clarity, and what this seems to be doing is making a .feature file that's fairly easy to read for someone who may not know a ton about web development and understand how that homepage thing works. And the way that we're able to make this part clear is basically by hiding the complexity over here. The complexity of what does it mean to make a promoted article. It's not a whole lot, it's just 4 things. Go to the article creation form, fill out a title, and press submit. But that sounds complicated. Do I have to write PHP? I thought I was just writing Behat, and Behat I thought was magic, and I'd rather not write this complex looking PHP if I don't have to. I thought I could just directly simulate all this browser behavior. So now I'm gonna jump to another part where I'm gonna cheat here. I'm gonna jump to a part where I'm just gonna copy paste a really long set of these Behat steps. I'll copy this up to the top of my file. I don't think you want to watch me write all this out manually. And because this is a really long scenario, I'll just use the tag related long here. So what is this doing? It says logging me in as an administrator with the admin role, going to node/add/article, and I figured out that I can just fill in form fields using these kinds of phrases. I can say, and I fill in the title with healthy and seasonal stuff, fill in the tags with healthy and seasonal. Because this is just vanilla Drupal core, I don't have path auto, so I've got to manually do the URL aliases. So if I'm making a new article called healthy and seasonal stuff, the way I'm going to know that the related sidebar is working is I expect to see articles that are both healthy and seasonal, articles that are just healthy, articles that are just seasonal. That's what I've got here. Article healthy and seasonal, an article that's just healthy, article that's just seasonal, and then an article that is healthy, seasonal, and vegetarian. All of these articles should show up in that sidebar. That's how I'm going to know that the related articles block is working long term. That's how I'm going to know that it's working and stays working, because I'm just going to make test content every time I need to test for it. So let's try running this. I call this related long. Not grepping. I'm running this test again, related long. Go, 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 go. A whole lot of green here. So I've also figured out that there's the ability to put in breakpoints. So far it's been hard for me to kind of mentally keep track of what Behat is really doing here, and it sometimes can execute so fast that it's hard to know what's really happening. So I found that there's the ability to put in breakpoints. I can just write and I break, and then Behat will pause execution. And now I can manually jump over to my site here, and I see, oh, these are all the nodes that I made. I've got a very healthy, seasonal, vegetarian article. There's that healthy and seasonal stuff thing, and look, all of those articles that I just made through an automated fashion are appearing in the related articles sidebar. Wonderful. Gonna let that go. My test has failed. Great, great, great. Why did it fail? Oh, because I was copying and pasting the wrong thing, I think. I was jumping ahead. So I do expect to see each of those things. When I ran it, it was checking that some of them were not there, but I do want them actually there. So let's just try running it one more time.
Does it get rid of articles after it's done?
Yes. The Drupal extension that's providing a lot of this functionality, like the ability to, all right, why?
Your region's not defined.
My region is not defined. Thank you for reading what's actually getting output here. So where are these regions coming from? That's what I'm supposed to talk about. Where are these regions actually coming from? Through some grepping that I'll just skip over. I figured out the regions are getting defined over here in this region map. So region maps are basically the ability to map between short phrases like homepage promoted article, recent articles, related articles, and more complex CSS selectors. So what Behat is doing here is knowing that when it sees that I'm checking for text in a region like related articles, it knows to look inside of this more complex CSS selector. One more time. Hey, 36 past steps. That's giving me maybe too much excitement. 36 past assertions. Wow. I must have just done something really valuable because I've got 36 green things. So I'm super excited. I commit it. I show up at Scrum the next day. I'm like, hey, client, you're going to be so impressed. You're going to love this. We've got the related articles. They look at the related articles and they say, yep, looks good to me. And I say, oh, and I wrote a cool Behat test. I hear Behat tests help you have good conversations with your client. Look at this Behat test that I wrote. And they're like, this is like 50 some lines of kind of gobbledygook. guess I understand what's going on here, but okay, cool, next. So I'm feeling disappointed. My client wasn't all that excited about the fact that I wrote this Behat test the way I did. And the next day goes by, they have entered a whole lot more content. And they say, hey, that related articles thing isn't doing what I want. And I think, oh no. I've spent too much time on related articles. How could it be wrong? And they say, well, the carrots article should only be showing things that are carrots and vegetarian and healthy. And I think, oh no, I could have just spent 15 seconds asking my client, did you want or and I got it wrong. So I think, I'm just going to jump. I'm just going to go switch it out so that it's or so it's and instead of or. I come back the next day, and then my client realizes, oh, then most of the related articles are empty because there are too many combinations here. So again, I've made a mistake. I should have talked through all the possible permutations here. So it wasn't a coincidence that I was playing Sufjan Stevens before the presentation here. It's okay to make lots of mistakes. Mistakes are a good way to learn here. So what I've been trying to do is show you like a sped up simulation of how I think a lot of people learn Behat. Basically the way I learned Behat, which is I got very interested in the automation side of things. And Behat, yes, it can automate things, but it should be helping us have better conversations with our client. There's that thing that I skipped over right at the top. Why am I actually doing this? Who needs a related sidebar? Who is this benefiting? What are we actually trying to do with a related articles sidebar? There are lots of reasons you might want to do related articles sidebar, and it might seem silly to just write it up, but it's a good idea to get everyone on the team having a decent understanding of why are we actually doing related articles. Maybe it is because we're trying to reduce the bounce rate by showing more relevant stuff. Maybe it's because we have so much content that we don't think people are ever going to find all the content on our website if we don't surface it. Lots of reasons, lots of different scenarios to talk through. So what's supposed to happen if an article has only one taxonomy term? What's supposed to happen if it has 10 taxonomy terms and we're only showing 4 articles? Does it matter that some of these taxonomy terms aren't really getting represented at all if we're only showing 4 things? Do we need to match? Do we need to actually show based on like how many of these taxonomy terms are present? If there are 10 taxonomy terms, are we supposed to show like the best matches or things that just match any of these terms? What do we do if there are no taxonomy terms at all? Is that even possible? Do they actually want to mix curation and automation? In my experience, a lot of clients will expect that on certain article pages, they can just manually decide what is going to show up in related articles. Well, if they don't tell me that, if we don't have a conversation about what they actually expect, they're never going to get that. So another mistake I've kind of made here is I've skipped over the big idea of behavior-driven development, this idea that we should be having quality conversations with our clients about what they actually expect. So just to give you another way of thinking about it, behavior-driven development is basically specification by example. Figuring out what the website is supposed to do by talking through all of these different examples. Lots of taxonomy terms, no taxonomy terms. We've got this concept of promoted. Are we supposed to be accounting for the concept of promoted, or we got the concept of sticky at top of list? Are we supposed to account for that? So Liz Kehoe, a major thinker in the behavior-driven development community, says that having conversations is more important than capturing conversations, which is more important than automating conversations. So Behat is a way to automate what comes out of the conversations you have with your client. But it's much more important to have the conversation than it is to automate. I would have been much better off had I just had a good conversation with my client about what they expected from related articles. That would have taken much less time than me spending an hour figuring out how to automate my incorrect assumptions with Behat. At my last job, we called this idea demo-driven development. just talking through how are we going to show our client that this thing is done. You don't have to automate it. You can just, at the beginning of a sprint, at the beginning of a feature, think for yourself, how am I going to show another person that this thing is done? And if you just write down for yourself how you're going to show that this thing is done, that gets you thinking much more analytically, much more deeply about what is actually expected. It's a good way of thinking through those edge cases that might not show up if you jump straight to automating the simple case or the simple scenario. So let's talk through how you can write these scenarios in a way that will allow them to be more readable by your client here. So I've got another pre-written scenario here for basically the idea that my client has, after having all these conversations, we decided it's okay to use the OR query. But in order to get really good quality content, let's use that concept of promoted. If there are promoted articles in one of these tags, let's get those at the top of the list. So we end up writing a scenario something like, given I am a content creator, and I have a list of 10 articles tagged in BBQ, barbecue, and the 6th newest article in barbecue is not in the related articles for the first newest article. Again, related articles is showing only 4 things at a time, so if the 6th thing isn't promoted, then it shouldn't be on the list. But if we go back to that 6th thing and mark it as promoted, then it should start showing up. Then that 6th newest article will be at the top of related articles for other BBQ articles. So we're able to, I think, write a scenario that I hope is more readable, more parsable to my client than something like this, where all of the complexity is here at this top level of these plain text files that are meant to be readable by a wide audience. The idea here is that pretty much anyone involved in the project should be able to read one of these files and have a good sense of what's going on. But if this file is exposing every single detail of the browser interaction, it's not serving that purpose. Is that a question over here? No. No. All right. Any other questions coming up? Yes. All right. So one of the ideas of Behat here is we're able to basically hide that complexity. So I saw earlier that my coworker who had set up the earlier Behat test had written custom steps here. So I'm basically going to do the same thing, and that is something I recommend. Write out these features in a way that is readable before you jump to writing the PHP side of things. So again, for time purposes, and I hope to avoid typos, I've pre-written these, but let's imagine that I haven't. So let's say that it's a slightly different phrase, like, and I have a list of 10 article nodes. So that's a step definition that does not yet exist. If I try and run this scenario, I'm going to get that same kind of failure message saying I don't know what you mean by 10 article nodes. So this is a fine place to be. If you do like that mindset of getting everything green, this is where you can get into that sort of gamification of test-driven development. Right now I'm at a state where Behat knew what I meant by the first thing, but this next step is undefined. It doesn't know yet what I meant by, given I have a list of article nodes tagged in something. So it's saying you can define that. So right now I'm in a state where I've got one thing green, I've got one thing yellow, and it's telling me if I want to define this thing, I could just copy-paste this code over to my feature context file. So let me do that. I'm going to copy-paste it here. And let's see. I've pre-written the function here that basically does the creation of 10 articles. So all that's happening here is we're looping over the count variable, using a time call to spread these out over time so that they do sort by time. And I've got a separate helper function here for generating individual articles, where we're taking the time, adding the time to the title, going to node/add/article, filling in the title field, filling in the tags field, filling in URL aliases, filling in the timestamp, unchecking promoted, because for most of these we don't want them promoted, and pressing the save button. And don't need the debugging of printing the current URL. So let's just use that pre-written one. I'll delete this thing. I'll put in the breakpoint.
Would it be articles?
Probably. Thanks. Yes. So if I were writing this scenario out before I had built out the Drupal side of things, it would fail because the functionality didn't exist yet. For demo purposes, I have built out this functionality. I have done the promoted checkbox. So let's just jump over to the site, see how that's going. I should see I now have a bunch of articles tagged in BBQ. I see the related articles. And that sixth newest article will be at the top of the related articles for other BBQ articles. So how am I doing that check? So that there again, I'm using the idea of a region mapping. Define related articles first here as a region. And all I'm doing to check that is going to the list of all admin content, clicking on the link for the newest article, and then checking that the text of the sixth newest article, which counting from 0 is in position 5, is in that related articles first region. So here I hope I've helped myself balance out the tension between something that is clear to my client about what this expected behavior is, and getting some decent automation out of it. So we're nearly at time here. I do want to point you in what I hope are some helpful directions. If the thing that you need most now is clarity around what kind of conversations should I be having with my client, then I would recommend checking out BDD specifically. Again, Liz Kehoe's a big thinker in this space. This is a YouTube video. I'll tweet out the links to these slides here, and you can follow the links. A good introduction to behavior-driven development. If what you're most interested in is the relation of Behat to other kinds of automated tests and balancing the competing priorities of automated tests in general, this is a great blog post that further breaks down the different benefits you can get from automated testing. So here I've just been talking about 2 benefits, automation and clarity, but this blog post from Sarah May breaks it down into 5 competing trade-offs. And if what you're looking for is just motivation on leveling up your development workflow, I recommend checking out a series of blog posts from my colleague Michelle Krejci titled No Excuses. This came out, I think, 3 years ago now, and it was a big motivator for myself and I think many others in the Drupal community to level up our development workflow and get more serious about automated testing. Thanks, everyone. Any questions? Yes?
Is there a resource or a tutorial on writing your own functions?
Just going deeper on writing this part, do you mean?
Yeah.
The Drupal extension documentation might be a good place to start, but someone in the back is giving me a hand sign saying, yeah, maybe not so much. I mean, quite honestly, I've struggled with this. You know, often the way I've done it is just by like looking at parent classes and seeing what they're doing.
I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about using a JavaScript driver, and do you have do you use Selenium at all in your automated testing?
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like for you and your workflow?
Mm-hmm. Just give me 1 second here. So, short answer, I have not had to do much JavaScript in my Behat tests. Partly just because the projects that I've used this on haven't required it, and partly because this is just a level of complexity that I would rather avoid, knowing that setting up Selenium. So for the people who aren't familiar, everything you saw so far didn't involve JavaScript at all. All the form fields I was filling out, the buttons I was clicking, JavaScript wasn't getting processed at all. And one of the reasons for ignoring the JavaScript is everything just runs much faster when you ignore the JavaScript. Of course, there's plenty of functionality that you do need JavaScript executing in order to test. You need to add more complexity to your Behat setup in order to accommodate that. The traditional way of doing so has been with a tool called Selenium that's able to connect you to a real browser. The thing I've been experimenting with, though, is skipping over the Selenium part and talking to Chrome more directly with this thing. Relatively new, I just came across this repo a few months ago, the Chrome Nink driver. And as I was planning out this session a month ago, I was thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if I could be running these Behat tests and you could just see Chrome getting controlled by a robot and filling out the form fields. So I have gotten that working, kind of. The reason I didn't use it in the presentation is because I haven't found it to be reliable at all. Like much of what I was doing here was filling out form fields. And when I've been using headed Chrome, basically using a version of Chrome where I'm able to see what's happening, then it just doesn't. Sometimes it just fails, and I run it again and it passes. So I didn't want to do that for the demo. But the normal way of using it is in a headless fashion, basically, where yes, Chrome is being used, you just can't see it. You just have to trust that it's working. So if I did have to execute JavaScript in my Behat tests, tomorrow, I would try and use it with headless Chrome directly, I think. And if I was able to get that working, I would just use that.
And I'm a fan of that tool as well for local testing. I've been also exploring cloud-based testing because, for instance, if I wanted to have Circle CI kick off it as part of a continuous deployment solution, I don't know how to make it run headless Chrome on that server. So I've been looking at testing bot and cross-browser testing.
Yeah, for non-Behat purposes, I've been able to get headless Chrome running inside of Circle CI. Like a lot of the testing examples we show at Pantheon show visual regression testing, where basically you're screenshotting the live environment of the site and you're screenshotting another environment where maybe WordPress core or Drupal core has been updated. And the idea is that if none of the pixels move between the live version of the site and the version of the site that's got the security update, it's a pretty good indication that the security update is safe to apply. All that to say, the tool that does that kind of screenshot comparison, Backs.js, that we've been using, executes much faster with headless Chrome than it does with Phantom.js, which is a more simulated browser in JavaScript that just runs slower than Chrome does.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.